Hi again, and welcome to another very exciting video from SNO Multimedia. This is probably going to be the longest video we've done. Why? Because we're talking about knives. And we have a lot of ground to cover. And you thought I only had guns. Obviously, we're not going to have time to talk about all these knives, but we can break it down into some categories and you'll get a feel for what we're going to talk about today. First, right here, we have all the Swiss Army knives. Back here, we have survival knives. Here we have cold steel folders, some of them with spring assist, and these are SOG. They're not all cold steel. These are the customs, a couple of machetes. Okay, over here behind the Swiss Army knives, we've got some of what I call my nice pocket knives. And then you've got various kinds of, cheaper stuff that ranges from junk to, very good. I know everybody wants to talk about survival knives, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, let me tell you about some of these Swiss Army knives. Okay? First of all these red ones, they're not really the Swiss Army knife, okay? They're manufactured by the same two companies that had a contract with the Swiss government for, I don't know, centuries maybe? I don't know how long it was. So they manufactured knives to sell to the public. The interesting thing about these Swiss Army knives is that you can buy the ones that were made for the Swiss military. And if it's one that had actually been issued, I used to have one, and it's got a little plate. I don't remember which side it was on, but there's a little plate with a K+ stamped into it, and what that means is it was actually issued. And I used to have one, but I've lost it. But these are the same knife that was issued, with one big difference. Now it looks like this. Okay, they changed the style. It used to be this metal on the outside, and it had a reamer, a main blade, large flathead screwdriver, and bottle opener. See? Pop the bottle open. And then it had can opener and a small flathead screwdriver. Okay? That's the old Swiss Army knife. Now it looks like this. And it's this plastic stuff for the grip that's pretty good, non-slip. It's a one-hand operation. It's partly serrated, okay, which is important in survival situations. It helps you cut rope and fabrics and that kind of thing. You can lose your edge and still be able to cut with serrations. It's a lock blade now, and it's kind of goofy because I'm used to pushing from the right side with my thumb, but with this knife you have to push it from the other side. And then when you go to close it, your thumb's like right down there in the middle. It's weird. I'm not used to it yet. Comes with a saw. It has a Phillips screwdriver now. And a reamer. And then of course it's got the flathead bottle opener. Also has a little wire stripper right there, see? Right there. Okay. And this is lock. So you can put some pressure down on it without worrying about the knife closing on you. The small one doesn't lock, so it's different than it used to be. It's a good knife. Not everything that they change goes downhill. The Swiss Army knife that's made for the civilian market just comes in an incredible variety, from something that's got everything on it to where it's more collectible than useful. I mean, this is not something you'd want to stick in your pocket and carry around with you everywhere. This is interesting. These new guys here have this kind of plastic grip on it that's very grippy and nice, and it's a lock blade with this tab that you push down to unlock it. Very handy. I like this one a lot. And it comes in different sizes. See, you've got essentially the same knife with more or fewer features. This one's electronic. It takes a battery and it gives you altitude. It's got an altimeter on it, along with the standard toothpick, and it's got tweezers and a pen. I've reviewed this thing before. This is the Victorinox Rescue Tool. So be sure and check out my video on this, dedicated just to this tool. So there's two companies that make Swiss Army knives. One of them is Victorinox, the other one's Wenger, and now they're the same company with two different brands. This one's huge. And this is more of a multi-tool. It has a pliers, very large blade that locks. Okay, if you look at the multi-tool, you can understand why they put the design in that you had to push it from this side. Okay, so they probably designed this first and then had this mechanism built into this knife to lock it and then unlock it. Alright, and then once they settled on this design, they just used it in all of their lock blades. I can't say I'm very fond of that style of unlocking the blade, but it's something you'd get used to. This knife has so many other good uses. It comes with a set of bits, and you can use it as a Phillips screwdriver, or a flathead, or whatever kind of Torx, Allen, whatever kind of bit you got. Also comes with an extension. Alright, so it's got the flathead bit. You put the flathead bit in there. You put this extension on the flathead, and then put your bit in there, and you can reach in a little farther. It's a little wobbly. You know, the way this thing is wobbly, I'm not even sure I've got it right. If one of you knows how to do this properly, let me know. Do a video response, or just send me an email and I'll do a follow-up video. This little Swiss Army knife is really cool. It's got a little tiny screwdriver here that goes into the corkscrew. I know what you're thinking. You don't need a corkscrew on a survival knife, but really you do. You never know when you're going to have to open a bottle of wine or whatever to celebrate the fact that you're about to be rescued, or maybe celebrate the fact that you've finally broken away from civilization. This is a tiny screwdriver. Can you see that? Tiny flathead. It's not a lock blade, but hey, you can put a lock blade in this holster. It's a little tool that comes with the holster, and it has US inches, metric. Okay, it has a compass. It has a magnifying glass that you can use for starting fires or reading very small things. And it has a thermometer that's analog, so you don't have to have batteries. Cool tool. Okay, let's talk about survival knives. There's a lot of information out there about survival knives. I'm going to tell you what I look for in a survival knife, so that you'll have an idea of what is useful or not. Okay, first thing, let's talk about the metal. I like some kinds of stainless steel. All right, you don't have to worry about them rusting. It doesn't corrode as quickly, so it doesn't lose its edge, okay, because of corrosion. Understand that corrosion is the worst enemy of your edge. All right, if you have a razor, like a disposable razor that you shave with, that metal is way harder than the hairs on your face. So if you shave and then wash it off, wash all the hairs and soap off, and then blow dry it, it'll last 10 or 20 times longer, okay? Because the corrosion is what is eating away at the blade. So stainless steel is good, okay, for edge retention and for keeping you from losing your edge because of corrosion. The problem with stainless steel, at least some of the older types, like 440 stainless, is that it tended to be brittle. All right, so you could be in a survival situation and need to put some pressure on your blade for some reason. Maybe you're like Bear Grylls and you've got your blade out like this, all right, and then you've got a club and you're pounding it to cut the tree down, and you break your blade because it's brittle. Now you've lost your survival knife and it's not doing you any good at all. You would have been better off with a little bit softer steel that was more flexible and less brittle, even though you had to sharpen it more often. Because it tends to be more brittle, right at the point where you're getting your edge nicely sharpened, nicely honed, instead of coming to a very fine point, it chips. okay, and breaks off. Over the last decade or so, they've come up with some really amazing types of stainless steel, but they're very expensive. They tend to be rare, okay, getting a hold of them because it's so expensive. They're hard to make. It's something, you know, ridiculous. Like you have to have a computer-controlled oven. You heat it up to 17 or 1800 degrees. You leave it there for 30 minutes, all right? Then you cool it down to 1200 degrees, and you leave it there for 31 minutes and 10 seconds. And then you have to heat it up very quickly again to 1900 degrees and hold it there for 3 minutes before you bring it down to 350 and let it bake off for another hour. These steels can be stainless and very hard and yet not brittle. I generally prefer a high carbon steel that's going to be not going to be stainless. It's going to be a little softer than most types of stainless, and so I might have to sharpen it more often, but it's not going to be brittle, and I'm not going to have to worry as much about it snapping. This is the Mora knife, and this thing is so cheap. It comes with a little Kydex holster, all right, that you strap on there. It doesn't have any features. It's a thin blade. I don't know if it's a full tang or not. I've never put this under an x-ray to tell. So that would be important to know before you trusted your life to this knife. You know, it's good in so many respects. It has an outstanding little grip. It doesn't have any holes for lanyards or for lashing this to make a spear out of it. What I like about it is that it's just the perfect size blade for almost everything I have to do. If I was strictly in a survival situation and my life depended on what knife I was carrying, I would probably go and get a different one. You need some other features in a survival knife that you can't get with this. But for a utility knife that I use every day and carry with me everywhere I go, this is it. Carbon steel, it's very sharp and it's easy to get an edge on it, and I keep it oiled so it doesn't corrode too much. I love this knife. It's hard to get an edge on it. Right now it's not very sharp. I haven't sharpened it in years. But, you know, it's got nice features. It's got this stainless steel pommel. It's very hard. It's got a good grip that's easy to hold on to. It's not slippery even when it's wet. And it's got this serrated edge on the back of it. So, you know, you can saw through a rope or something. Important to have easily cut rubber, anything that might be strapping you down underwater. This is what you want. Snaps in, but it's easy to pull back out. All right, that's a good knife. Goes in the category of underwater survival. This is a knife I've had for many years. I use it for when I go hunting. This is my Skinner. It's the old timer. It's got the hilt, so I don't have to worry about my hand slipping down onto the blade and hurting myself. When I'm dressing a deer, I've got him hanging and I'm going to cut through the sternum. I just drive the knife in there, grab it with both hands, and yank it down, and I don't have to worry about my hand slipping if it's bloody or whatever and then getting cut. So a nice feature in a hunting or survival knife is to have this hilt that keeps your hand from slipping onto the blade. It's carbon steel, so it really gets a fine edge. You can shave with this, no problem. Here's a good way to test how sharp your blade is. If you're tired of testing it on your arm or leg and you've got all these bald patches on your arms to see if it shaves, as this one does, all right, just do this. Hold your thumb out, put the blade on the thumb, and then just see if it catches. You don't have to shave. You don't have to shave off a piece, but you can. Let's get in real close here. So you can shave a little piece, and that shows you how sharp it is. But you can also just catch it, okay, and see if it catches. This one's catching. All right, here's the trick. The sharper the angle, the more you can lay down the knife on the nail and it still catches, the sharper it is, okay? This is a very sharp blade. In general, leather sheaths are not as good as plastic because they can get wet and your blade can corrode. The nice thing about leather is it's replaceable. If you know how to do this, if you know how to sew, if you have a Swiss Army knife with a reamer that has a hole in it, like this one, you can sew leather. Other survival knives. Here's one. This is a U.S. Marine Corps K-bar. I make no representations about how authentic this one is. It's stainless, and it looks to be Teflon coated. It's got the hilt for protection. It's light for a knife of this size, and it's got a hard pommel. Good for defense, good for hammering, whatever you need. In a hunting knife or a survival knife, you want a full tang. That means that this piece of metal goes from the very tip of the knife all the way to the end and all the way through the handle. That's a full tang. You see that? So you have to split the grip and then rivet it on around either side of this piece of metal. But that makes the knife stronger. This knife is made to look really cool and be long and stay in your hand, right? And you can go around fantasizing about being in the special forces, right? With a knife like this. Because we didn't make the cut, so the best we can do is buy a knife that looks like we did. This is a Cold Steel SRK. This one is several years old, and it was made with carbon 5. I don't even know what that is. But a blacksmith told me it was good steel. This knife is made by Gerber, and what I like about it is the fact that it's made by Gerber and they use good steel. It's full tang. This grip is soft and springy and very grippy. I also like the shorter blade and the curve on it. It would work as a skinner. It's definitely hefty enough to cut through meat and bone and gristle and everything you need to do. So it's got a lanyard hole. That's one of the features you look for in a survival knife, is a hole in it so you can put a lanyard. We lost the sheath, or anyway, we don't have it. This is not intended to be a commercial plug, but there's just no way of avoiding this. This knife also is by Gerber, and it's the Bear Grylls Ultimate Survival Knife. It's a really good survival knife. You know, one of the things about my everyday carry pack that I have to consider is the weight, right? And so my little light Mora just fits the bill perfectly for me. But if I know that I'm going to go in country and I'm going to have to trust my life to a survival knife, I would probably choose this one over this one. I've heard people technically describe a full tang knife as one that goes all the way through the handle, as I just did a moment ago. By that definition, this is not a full tang, but this piece of metal does go the entire width of the handle. It's just covered by the grip on top. It goes all the way to the bottom to this steel pommel that is attached and is cross-hatched and makes a hammer. So here you are holding your knife and you got to hammer something, whether it's a tent stake or a fish skull to take the fish out. Either one of them works, and it works very well. It's got a lanyard hole, comes with a lanyard and a whistle. It has these two holes here, and a lot of you are not wondering what that is, but for those of you who do wonder what those holes are for, that's so you can lash this knife to a stick and hold it in place and make a spear out of this. So if you want to go spear fishing, for instance. For general utility, I don't like serrated edges. Okay? I like a nice smooth edge. In a survival situation, I do like serrated edges. Okay? It helps cut vines, tough materials, rope, whatever. If I can't sharpen the knife for a while, this edge may go dull, but this one is going to retain its cutting ability because of the fact that it's serrated. It comes with a nice holster. This retention holster, the knife slips into place and holds in there, even if you don't strap it here at the back. It comes with this really cool looking gizmo on the end, you see? And if you pull it out, why, it's a fire starter! And you've seen Bear Grylls use this many, many times. Yeah. Cool, right? It's even got a little spot on the back of this blade, see? With the symbol. That is a flame, and it shows you where to use this. Okay? because it does burn the blade. If you unfold this and open it, now you have a diamond grit sharpener built into your survival knife. At the back, you have some survival tips and a little survival guide. I don't know if it was intended to go into this slip. I just put it there. But this little survival guide comes out, theoretically, and gives you some basic information about how to build a fire, how to signal, how to build a shelter, okay, how to navigate using your compass or just your watch, how to get some water, how to tie some knots. Useful information for people who don't already know how to do it, and reminders for those who might have forgotten. The sheath has both vertical and horizontal straps for attachment, so you can strap it like this or across your belt, or any other way you want to. This knife retails for $49. You can get it cheaper than that, street price. This is actually a very good survival knife. Cold Steel Trailmaster. It might be the best survival knife. What? Yeah, I know it's completely impractical. Too heavy. You wouldn't want to put this in your backpack and have to lug it around all day. You wouldn't want it on your hip. But, man, it's big. Look at that. You know, I know that this has uses, okay? This serrated back. You can lash it to a stick and make a spear. It's got a little storage compartment here that's waterproof and has a water O-ring. You can put matches and junk like that in it. This is good. It's great. It's useful. I'd just rather have a flat back here so I can hammer this blade if I need to really cut a big log. You can say I'm wrong. That's my preference. We can't have this discussion about knives without talking about some of these custom blades that are made by a friend of mine who's a blacksmith. His name is Armand Bassel. And there's his AB logo. And he makes these fantastic, gorgeous knives. Makes them by hand. Puts an edge on them that you can shave with. He goes out and finds a piece of, just a piece of steel in the ground. He cuts it, and pounds it, and beats it into shape. And it's just very high quality steel. I mean, none of this is stainless, of course. It's all going to be carbon steel. But, I mean, that's a cool knife. Then he gets elkhorn and makes the handles out of them. There's a nice skinner. And man, he gets the piece of elkhorn that just feels perfect in your hand. Look at that. Okay, I think this is the one that's from a hay fork. See, there's the hole where it would have attached. You know, these are cool because they're big, but as I've said before, they're not as practical to me as the little ones. So I really prefer the smaller ones. This actually is just the perfect size for me, for a utility knife anyway. Here are some cool folders I wanted to show you. You can see we're sort of tie-light fans. Here's the original size. And you know, this one's cool because you can snap it open when it comes out of your pocket, because it hooks on this thing right here. See? It just hooks right here on your clothes. See there? If you know how to do it, you can just flick it open. Well, you can do it with your thumb. Show you that again. Okay? But you can also just shake it and it comes open. Did you get that? Or is that off screen?
No, I got it.
Okay. So, cool tie light. This is the same thing but smaller. It's actually much more practical. Fits in your pocket, got a little clip. Open it up with one hand. That's very useful. Cut your rope, close it back up, clip it back on. This is the same thing, only difference being that instead of a plastic grip, it's got a titanium grip. That's just very cool. Tie-Light, same thing, cold steel. Nice design, fits the hand well. It's got a good weight to it, not too heavy, not too light. Got a couple of sogs here that I'm really fond of. This one's cool because it's spring assisted. You can hit the little thumb tab here to open it, and it springs open. And then the lock is on the back here, so close it back. But it's also got this tab on the back, and you can just open it with your index. That's pretty cool. See? Springs right open for you. It's got a nice curved blade that works well as a skinner, and I don't know how often you sharpen knives, but if you sharpen them a lot, you'll love this kind of curved blade. Just makes it easier to sharpen. This one's interesting. It's got a thumb tab. You can flick it open. When it opens, it locks open. And then to unlock it, you pull this little metal tab down right here with your fingers, and it just swings the blade down. See? So you can open it and you can close it just by holding that. You don't have to use the thumb tab. This one is so easy to open. Very handy. What I don't like about this particular blade is this curve right here. Makes it hard to sharpen in there. I use a whetstone and I can't get it to, you know, when I hold it at an angle, this part of the blade doesn't contact the whetstone. I can't sharpen it. So this gets duller and duller, and this gets a razor edge. There you have it. There's a lot to be said for a good little pocket knife, okay? What I look for is, of course, high quality. I'm talking about the features, all right? The features I want is more than one blade. This one is a J.A. Henkel's pocket knife, and it happens to have 4 blades on it. You don't need 4. I just thought it was interesting. All right, it's very small, very easy to get an edge on it, and all of the blades are small. This is the largest one, and you know, it's small and light, fits in your pocket. You've got a knife when you need it. This is a Kissing Crane, bigger blade. It has 3 blades, one on this end here, and then these 2 identical blades on the other end. This Hen and Rooster, that's great for cutting rope, or if you're putting out straw or hay, cut the cord. The only problem is I don't know how to sharpen this, but it's cool. Different kinds of case knives, I love them. Good, I've carried these a lot. I think I've carried this more than I have the Swiss Army knives. It's stainless. I don't know, it's just a good knife. I like how it snaps open and snaps shut. Good blade. Never turn your nose up at a pocket knife just because it's small. If it's got a blade on it, you can use it. How do you choose one? I don't know. You know, my thinking is you can never have too many knives. I mean, if you've got this many knives, you don't have to choose. Well, I'm glad you watched our presentation on all these different kinds of knives. Feel free to share your ideas with us about what makes the best kind of knife, whether it's a pocket knife, Swiss Army knife, survival knife, diving knife. Just let us know what your ideas are. Leave us a comment or send us an email, or hey, do a video. See you next time.